So this episode, and welcome to this episode of Creative Fuel for Underdogs. This episode is about the joy of work. And it's something that I read in a book years and years and years and years ago. And it's one of those things that just stuck with me. So my husband and I were down in Amish country, and we stayed at this inn, and there was this book on the table. And it was all about the Amish culture, the Amish beliefs, the way of life, a very simple way of life. And you open the front cover, and their top priority, their top mission is to teach their children the joy of hard work. And there's a bunch of Amish proverbs if you Google it, but it's about taking pride and then experience the pride that you can take in your work and then experiencing the joy that comes with it. And how this episode came about was my daughter several months ago moved into a brand new house. It had just been built, and slowly we've been helping her put in a yard, and then we were putting flower beds around the outside of the front. And we had bought a number of plants, what we thought would work for the area, and we brought them down to her, and we laid them out. We kind of set them out with what the recommended distance was as far as feet goes. And we realized we didn't have enough plants. We probably needed 3 or 4 more plants. So what I said was, I'll start weeding, because it was full of weeds. It had been, they'd graded it and the landscaper had put the dirt in and put the yard in, the lawn, but we were going to do the plants. And I told my husband, well, I'll weed it and I will dig the holes for the plants. I thought I'd probably just weed it. He'd go buy some plants and come back. Well, it ended up we were there too early in the morning. None of the Ace Hardwares were open, so we went from one to another one. And then he realized they didn't have what we were looking for, so then he went to Lowe's. And so my husband was gone for about an hour and a half. And in that time, I weeded the whole thing, and I dug all the holes. And in the whole time, I'm like, first I didn't eat, which is not a good, it's always not eating is the first thing to trip the grumpy. And I was in my head, and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. He should be digging. I shouldn't be pulling weeds. I work on the inside of the house. He works on the outside of the house. We have this. So I was full victim mode, and I was full I was in the trauma in my head that I had to dig these holes, and I hated physical labor, and I hated physical work. And I was and then I caught myself, and I'm like, no, this is a beautiful experience. You're doing a beautiful thing for your daughter, and, this is not a bad thing. Get out of it, Julie. And I snapped out of it. And so this episode is about flipping the trauma of having to do work you don't like to do, or a job you don't like to do, and then how can we get to the place of joy? And so this is exploring all the different things you can do to get there, but at the end of the day, it's anything. This whole podcast is about, we create all this noise in our head, these stories, this trauma in your head that isn't real. It's not real. It's programmed thought processes, and you can reprogram it, you can remap, you can build new neural pathways that flip to the positive, that flip to the opportunity, that flip to the good, that aren't dwelling in this, I have to work today, I have to go into work, and I hate this job, and I don't like what I'm doing, and I should be doing physical labor, and I shouldn't be, So in this episode, we're going to explore all of that. So the first thing is that trauma was my kids, okay? Like, whenever they had to do chores, that's when it would oh my gosh, I've got to do chores. It takes 5 minutes to unload the dishwasher. Oh my gosh, 5 minutes. And there would be so much trauma around it. And I was always a shalom in the home mom. So it was okay, I'll do it. And so, I talked to my kids about it yesterday. It was Father's Day yesterday, and they were over. And I'm like, I didn't do a good job with this. I did not teach you guys how to love work, the joy of work. I said, I did not do a good job, but I want you to know that if you have if you have children and I have grandchildren, one of my jobs is to teach them to love doing chores, to love making things tidy, this is one of my experiments I'm going to be doing, is to learn the joy of hard work, the joy of organization, tidying, being part of the family, and the whole family does chores together. And we all share the responsibility of the house and things being nice. And so that's one of the things that I want to make sure my grandkids don't have, that my children got, all this mental drama from cleaning up after yourself. So, and this is like this mental suffering that I had of just having to do chores with and how can we bring joy into it? How can we bring this Amish philosophy into it? So, how to build joy while you're doing work. So there's three things that I came up with. And part of it was helping my other daughter this weekend, or actually this was last weekend. We've been helping her all week. My other daughter moved into a house close to us, so she's within help distance. So, and she decided to buy this house that needs a lot of love. The woman, her husband had died, and she had health issues, and so she couldn't take care of the home the last few years, and things had really started to deteriorate in the house. And she had these cats, lots of cats, and she had a dog too. But it seems whenever the cats were ill, that she put them down the basement. And so the basement was filled with cat diarrhea and vomit, and it was just disgusting. Well, I volunteered to take on the basement, to clean the basement. I was looking at it from a spirit sense, like the house had this creepy factor, and our people that have passed have a tendency, to be with you. That's just part of the spirits. Like my mom and dad are with me. But sometimes they stay with the homes, and, so it's really easy. You just ask them to leave, So I went through all the rooms, and I saged the rooms, and I went through, and anybody that's here that shouldn't be here, please, anybody, this is where she went. I'm sure you want to be with her. Go ahead and go with her. It's the same thing we do with animals. Like if you got bees bothering you or flies bothering you, just ask them to leave. You do exactly the same thing with spirits. You just say, hey, this new family is taking over this house, just please leave. So I went through all the rooms, and then I got to the basement, and the basement was the heaviest. It was just really, really, really heavy energy in the basement. And so, did the same thing, did a cleansing, and then I decided to take on the poop and the puke. And it was quite a chore because it was everywhere. It was on walls, like baseboards. It was on everywhere. And, it was really damp and it was really musty. So I went and bought a dehumidifier, and I put that down there and then just cleaned the entire basement and just did it. And at no point in time was it gross, was there trauma in my head. Everything was about purpose. So the purpose I had was my daughter was just mortified by her basement. And this house is a project. There's there's nowhere you look in this house that it doesn't need attention. Everything needs attention. Either it needs windows replaced, or it needs wood painted, or it needs ceiling stains painted over, or the whole thing was peeling wallpaper everywhere. So it was wallpaper, but all the seams were turning and peeling, and it just, this house, every inch of this house needed love. And so she was, my whole goal was the purpose was that she would not be overwhelmed by this house. So I gave her, different strategies. I said, make a vision board for this house, see where it can go, see what it can do, see, vision it out, and then just, set, priorities. This is the top thing we're dealing with, next thing. So, but her biggest obstacle was the basement. She's like, when we were moving in, she's like, don't put anything down in the basement. I don't want to go down there. I don't want to be part of it. So I said, well, let me take on this project where I help you to fall in love with the basement and utilize this great space. And so doing it with purpose, actually, you can do things that you never thought you could do. And we did this leadership course at the church I was attending. And one of the things with the leadership course was to want to expose you to things outside of the norm, and to push you into places where you are uncomfortable, really, really, really uncomfortable. So one of the things that I was tasked with doing was this small group of people. Somebody, and I don't know who this person was, somebody had tried to commit suicide, and it was horrific the way they tried to do it. But they'd been in the hospital for 3 days, and they were coming out, and we were given the task to clean the apartment. And so there was blood everywhere in the kitchen. Like, there was blood in the dining room and the living room, but just little bits. But the kitchen was like this, like a murder scene. It was blood everywhere. And it had been there for 3 days, and it had this acrid smell that and so I said, I'll take the kitchen. One, I love the kitchen. I love cooking. That's my zone. That's my place. But I took the kitchen, and I did. I put the love into it. I changed the energy of the kitchen. I cleaned it all up. But that smell was in my nose for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it wouldn't. And I think after doing that, I'm like, I can face pretty much anything, So, it's that feeling of purpose. So when you have that purpose, and so that's what my absolute best, I always look for examples of, well, if something's not working, where is it working? So right now, post-COVID, it's so hard to staff. Staffing is the worst thing, and especially fast food. But you start to look at Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A is killing it. You look at it from an owner perspective, you look at it from a fast food owner perspective, you look at it from profitability, you look at it from revenue, you look at the Chick-fil-A model is ridiculous. And their employee turnover is, their employee retention is in the 90 percentile. And no other fast food chain is even minutely close to that. It's like, how are they doing so well? And it really comes down to everybody they hire has Christian values, and they're hired because they believe in their Christian values. And it's all about kindness and service. And we are here to serve you, and it's this act of service mentality, and it's this higher purpose. And they're bringing in, when there's a new store opening up, they have hundreds of thousands of applicants of people that want to be a Chick-fil-A owner. And then they go through this extreme vetting process, and they finally narrow it down to the person that has the same core values as them. And whether you buy into this or you don't buy into it, just look at it from the surface, which is an entrepreneurial, this is a fantastic business model, fantastic marketing, their product, that people can't get enough of it. There's two where we live, it's 2 3-lane wide drive-through, and there's just this phenomenal amount of cars that are waiting, and it's all the way around the building, 3 lines, and all the employees are happy, they're kind, they're here to serve you, they go above and beyond. You get this first-class experience, and it's just amazing because everything else is viewed as, oh, you work in fast food? Oh my gosh, that's terrible. And so having purpose when you're working is one of the first things to get out of your head. The second thing is always gamify it, make it fun. Whatever you can do, and if you're having this anxiety of going back, just doing a quick brainstorming to get out of your head, to reset your head, just do a quick brainstorming on how can I gamify it, how can I make it fun? How can I use this? Let me view this job, even though this may not be my ideal perfect job. How is this a stepping stone to get to the next job? How is this a stepping stone of getting to where I want to be and my vision and where I want to go? And then gamify it, like, how can I make this fun? Okay, is it possible for me to have an earpiece in and listen to my favorite podcast at work? Is it possible that I can listen to things that are going to get me to the next job, that I, motivate me, move me forward? How can I make this fun? Or how can I just, if I've got coworkers that are bringing me down, how can I lighten up the mood? How can I bring the fun in? How can I do a creative flip on the mood in the office? Hi, it's me, Julie. This program and our future endeavors to make this world a better place are supported by my business, 𝗙𝗵𝗱𝗴, an exceptional marketing agency. Hire us to develop a highly creative marketing campaign that will feature on this show and give you amazing visibility. And a portion of the profits go to this programming. So go to 𝗙𝗵𝗱𝗴𝗏.com and let's talk about your business and how we can help you. The last thing is, so you've got purpose. Number one, have alignment with purpose. 2, gamify, make it fun. And then 3 is, how does this add value? So with my grandkids, my future grandkids, and the chores, it's showing the value of putting everything back perfectly. And when the kids come into the room and they see the toys perfectly organized, everything has its space, everything has value, you're adding value to the toys, you're adding value to the space, you're adding value to everything. And the organization, the decluttering, the lightness that comes with that, it puts you in this positive, creative zone. Everything clearly organized, the crayons organized, the markers, the pencils, the pads, the finished artwork. Everything is so carefully organized that it makes you want to create. And the lightness that comes with lack of clutter, organization, and teaching the value of that. Teaching the value of doing a great job, going above and beyond, that taking pride, that how do I add even more value to the job I'm doing? How do I improve everything? Every job I've had, and my mind's always worked like this, but it works like to an extreme case, is this is an issue, how do I overcome it? So my first jobs are always fast food. I worked at Burger King for 2.5 years. And lunch sucked, so the lunch rush was awful. And so I started working night shift, and I loved night shift. And I loved everything about closing and cleaning up and making it perfect for the next day. I really enjoyed that process. And then after that, I worked in hotels. And, how to flip unhappy guests. And the first thing you do is you acknowledge what they're experiencing. You're like, yeah, wow, that's awful. I'm so sorry you're having this experience. You acknowledge them. And you don't try to defend it. You don't say, anything. You're like, how can I make it better? Or how can I improve it? Or you give them something, a token, and you acknowledge what they're experiencing. And it usually flips it. And there is chaos, too, in hotels, especially when you have a whole group of people coming in early and people haven't checked out, especially on weekends. And so juggling that, managing that, say, look, your whole group, we can get one room right now. Would you be okay, like, putting your stuff in that one room? Or can you, finding ways to work it out, finding ways to solve the problem of no rooms right now. They haven't been cleaned, and I explained to them, I apologize, but the guests that were supposed to check out early and get cleaned so you can have this room, they didn't leave, and we've been trying to get them to leave. So, you deflect a little bit. Again, you're not trying to make excuses. You're just trying to help them understand what the problem is. And then there's always people that are trying to get something for free. And again, you just go along with it because there's nothing you can do. You can't invalidate their claims, but you just kind of know when to what to give them and when to stop and how to manage that. And that's just that's the cost of doing business. So gamify it, add value, make it fun, create purpose. The one thing too, and I love this, so I'm going to share it with you. Our web development partner, he always says, my fire is not your fire. Your fire is not my fire. I'll get this right. Your fire is not my fire. And to me, like, oh my gosh. So you might be going through this trauma. You might be in your head. You might be, it's the end of the world that this thing happened. But that's not my fire. And I don't have to take on that. And I don't have to take on anything that you're putting out. All I have to do is show up positive, happy, and help you get to the point where you can see the solution and we're going to resolve this together. And so that's really, that's it. That's the joy of work and giving up the jobs you don't like to do. Find someone to delegate them to. Have a great week.